really did stand up at a menopause conference, and I said to the crowd there that I look like Alice from the Brady Bunch. Let me tell you something. Nothing could have prepared me for the thunderous reception that line got in that room, okay? It sent me straight into menopause, honestly. Because I feel like for that audience, and maybe you too, I say that I look like her, and what goes through your minds is, that's who I thought you looked like! And you laugh, but meanwhile, and maybe there are some of you here tonight, there are younger audience members who literally will come up to me after shows and be like, were you really Alice from the Brady Bunch? I'm like, yes, I'm 99 years old. And I'm dead, actually.
We are Moms Unhinged, a nationally touring stand-up comedy show. Join us in our podcast as we explore everything from motherhood, midlife crisis, marriage, divorce, online dating, menopause, and other things that irritate us. Hello and welcome to the Moms Unhinged podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Marie. I am joined today by the amazing Liz Glazer. She is incredible. She was just recently on a couple of shows out in New York on Long Island last week, and we are just so delighted to have Liz as part of our Moms Unhinged community.
Thank you.
Welcome, Liz.
Thank you so much, Andrea. Really, I love being a part of your community through Moms Unhinged. The shows are fantastic, which people who've been to them know, and really very happy to be part of those. And also to get to chat with you. We have, not in this format, but
yeah.
I love your community and I love your shows because so much of my thoughts are constituted around being a mom and being unhinged. And so it's nice that, there's like a call in terms of like the theme, because it gives those thoughts a place.
Yeah, for sure.
I appreciate that very much.
For sure. Mm-hmm. And if you are not familiar with Liz, she was recently on The Tonight Show. Hilarious.
Thank you.
And she has a special on YouTube. So definitely you have to go check that out. We will have the links in the comments with that. But yeah, so let's dive in and talk about, we were talking just briefly about just the stress and the anxiety of early childhood parenting. So let's dive into that because it is so stressful.
Yeah, well, I think it starts right away because, if one has a hospital birth in the United States, the anxiety comes the moment that you're there because the nurses, God bless them, truly and deeply, are like, okay, great, you have this baby. Now first of all, it's going to be asleep all the time. Yeah. And when it's sleeping, you've got to do this visual art project perfectly or else of swaddling. Yeah. And it's like, so like, I'm not good at art. No. And I know that. I know that for a fact. Like sometimes people are like, oh yeah, say I'm not like a visual person. I know I'm bad at visual art because when we had art in high school and in 10th grade, we had this art project that was like, I think the point was like about positive and negative space, and you were supposed to like do something with the colors and shade them in the positive and negative space. I really had no idea what I was doing, but I did it because it was, school or whatever. Yeah. And for some reason, for 15-year-old girls, the art teacher, that class was like, we're going to experiment with critiques.
Oh, God.
Of each other. And so our art teacher hung up everybody's project with clothespins on a drying line and was like, here you go, girls, like start. And because 15-year-old girls, of course, are the kindest. Known to be. And so, but even they were like, well, we don't really want to, like, this is so mean and weird. Why are we being told to do this? Yeah. But then somebody was like, okay, like the art teacher would not relent. And so she's like, somebody has to start. We're not leaving until we actually do this critique. And so somebody broke the ice finally And this was what got the room, was this one person in my 10th grade class was like, well, I don't really want to say anything, but like, obviously that one, pointing to mine, is terrible. And everybody finally could get on board. We're like, oh yeah. Well, I mean, like, clearly, like, I don't know what that person was thinking. And so that's my background with anything like with my hands and visual.
Yeah.
And then you're telling me that I've got to somehow apply the origami skills I know I don't have to doing this perfect burrito.
Yeah.
And like the nurses are amazing at it, right? Like the nurse is like a chef from Benihana.
Yeah.
She's like flicking the baby with an onion in her belly button, you know, whatever. And then the nurse is like, okay, now you try. And I'm like, you know, this can't be the end goal here. Like I can't be the thing that seals the fate, you know, because I'm not good at this. And of course, then, you know, you get home from the hospital and everybody's like, there's Velcro swaddles. And I'm like, why don't they just tell you that? Like, what's the point of that exercise? And I feel like that process and that like cluelessness and desperateness is really like emblematic of like arguably parenting, but at least, you know, I have a 2.5-year-old now, so I only know up to what I know.
Yeah.
But like, there's so much of that where it's like, oh, tummy time? Like, everybody does tummy time. Meanwhile, somehow my child, 1 second in, bawling. Like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And then, of course, as a parent, you spiral, or at least I do and did and will, I know, you know, because I'm like, okay, so she can't do tummy time, so that means she won't be able to roll over. If she can't roll over, then she's going to have to be stuck into her snoo, you know, until that's like her marital bed is going to be a bassinet, is like basically what I'm thinking. And so, but it's like that for everything, you know, because there's always a developmental milestone. And then you're like, wait, is it happening yet?
Right,
you know,
Am I doing it right? Is it everything? I really never understood how many ways there were to ruin a human. Like, it was like, I was like, there's a million ways. And just today is, and you're really just so, you have no idea. And, you know, it is terrifying. It is terrifying. And it doesn't matter how many books you read, because like they all have a whole different experience, and your kid can be very, very different. Then I'm like, well, they're supposed to be doing this and they're not doing that. And, you know,
I also am like very much like, I am persuaded by my own life experiences, but, and also just like, okay, I want to, like, I know I talk a lot about being anxious, and that is true, but I also like get that like really relaxing about her progress is probably the way. You know, like I do understand that, and yet there's also just like, okay, but could I be doing enough? Because that's also something that I think about a lot for myself. Like, because I had, you know, I mean, for people who don't know, I had this whole other career. I was a law professor. I was a lawyer. I had tenure. I gave it up. I do comedy now. I've been doing comedy for 13 years in March it'll be. And so, you know, so it's like, but through that, I've learned a lot of lessons, right? I mean, one would hope, but I do really think that I have. And like, you know, a lot of those lessons have to do with like letting go of pressure and like societal expectations of like what matter, you know, and stuff like that. And I could go on about that for a long time, but the way that I think about its applicability to parenting is like, my desire is to put less pressure on my kid, because, you know, I appreciate and understand why and how my parents like applied the amount that they did to me. And we're all only doing the best we can. Like, yes, to all of that. And to the extent that I can learn lessons, then I want to. But like, in terms of doing everything I could, like I remember, so I went to the University of Chicago for law school. Great school, did a lot for me. Ultimately, I think it really was the right place for me to go. But at the time that I was applying to law school, I really thought I wanted to get into Columbia Law School. And I was so fixated on that I would, and I got waitlisted, to Columbia Law School. And I would write them letters on a weekly basis since the time I got waitlisted, all up until I showed up to the dean of admissions office, and I had shown up at his office before, on the first day of school for Columbia Law School, the year that I would have gone. And the reason that I could do that is because Chicago started on a trimester, so I was like still, in the area. I lived in the area of Columbia. But anyway, so I show up on the first day of school just in case somebody didn't come.
Oh,
and
man.
When I didn't get in, the dean of admissions are like, they're all here. Please go home, and comply with your restraining order, you freak. But anyway, but my point with that story is like, when I think back to like the decision to go to this law school versus that law school, like everything that happened. First of all, I don't regret any of it. Like, even though, I'm actively not using a law degree on a daily basis, but I really think about that effort to try and get into Columbia a lot, because I'm like, at least I knew that I did everything, right? There's no doubt. Like, I showed up the first day of school, like, just in case. And I think about that with parenting and really with everything is like, did I turn over every stone?
Right.
Because I can trust myself to at least research the stones to turn over.
Yeah.
And if I don't, then I'll kind of always know that I didn't. And so, I think about that a lot with parenting, because it's like, we don't know. Nothing is certain.
Well, with parenting, it really does feel unlimited in terms of, did I do enough? It feels unlimited. And you can also arguably do too much,
That's true too.
I mean, like, all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm going to just manage it all for the kid. Now the kid's like, well, I can't do anything,
Right.
Like,
that's true too. Right.
It's this weird balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, obviously we're all like just trying to figure out what that weird balance is. But I think a lot about that with parenting.
Yeah. I mean, luckily, I think there's so much more available and so much more known about, parenting. And, when my mom was parenting us, it was just like feral, go on out, whatever. And, good or bad or whatever, I think. But there's definitely a lot more research, it seems like, than what was available in, our parents' time. So, yeah. So, do you find, are you enjoying your time? Do you feel, can you feel like relaxed into it, or is it?
Yeah, I do. I really enjoy it. I enjoy it more than I ever even thought I would, because, I come to parenting a little bit of a different way, because I am a non-birthing female parent. I'm a mom, and I was never pregnant. I didn't birth a child. And so, in my act, I focus on that element quite a bit, because it's my personal experience, but I think it's unique, different, and mine, and some other people's.
Sure.
And so there is this kind of like strange space that we occupy. And I think too that like there's this, I've noticed like sometimes on the part of like other lesbians who I know, that it's like, no, we're the same. Like, we're both the moms and and there's no dad. And I'm like, I guess, but like also, I don't feel threatened to explore the ways in which there are differences to the extent that there are. And I don't think it's as easy as it maps on to a mom and a dad role, but also every person is different. Every mother is different. Every father is different. So anyway, and also I love that my daughter specifically, she knows I'm a comedian, but like, what does that mean to know that at 2 years old? But she knows that things that are funny are fun. And one thing that is funny to her is like sometimes, we'll be going out and we'll be like, who's coming? It's like, well, grandma, Bubby, Zadie, mama, mommy. And then sometimes I'm like, who's coming? And she's like, daddy. And I'm like, hey, really? And so, and like, I think that derives from the other kids in her class saying like, well, daddy's doing this. And she's like, I don't have a daddy. That's funny. And so I love it because like, there are quite a few punchlines of mine that some of which precede her birth, even about like the turn being that I'm the daddy and, you know, whatever. And so it's fun to me that she seems to intuit that as its own punchline.
Yeah.
For wherever it comes from for her, which like, of course, I don't entirely know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is interesting to see, like, I was always like making sure that my kid, I'm like, they just have to have a sense of humor. That's it.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Well, she definitely does. I mean, there are a couple things that she said that like are like good jokes. And so one is, from her daycare, they're always constantly writing notes. I mean, they're basically like traffic cops and like just with all the reports that they've got to do from daycare.
Yeah.
And so one of them was that I guess there were 3 kids in class that day, and the teacher, they were painting. And so the teacher asks kid 1, what did you paint? And the kid says dinosaurs. What did you paint? The other kid, flowers. To my daughter, what'd you paint? She says paper. And I'm like, that's an amazing, like literal, like, just your regular Mitch Hedberg.
Yeah.
And so that's fun. And then she also like gets that certain things get a laugh, as, children do.
Yeah.
And then says them. And so one that, like, this is one that I've been kicking around. I think it's really funny. And, whether it turns into something like on stage, I have no idea. But I think it's funny. I think a lot about my own first memory. And I think about that in the context of my daughter, because I'm like, when's she going to go live? Like, when are we going to start recording?
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to me because I remember my own, but also because toddlers do have some memory, and you can kind of like, memory isn't, in a way, it's an on-off, because any adult, like, you can remember a time before you remembered. That said, if you're like really observing a baby and toddler, there are things that they remember. It's just that then they forget them later.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that kind of like, it, similar to like language acquisition, like it kind of comes developmentally like slow and in phases and, whatever. And so anyway, but they fixate on weird stuff. And so for my daughter, it's like people we don't have a relationship with who she is obsessed with. And, I mean, arguably she gets that from my side, but it's like, like we recently went on a trip. Trip was about 10 days. Obviously any taxi driver, she's like, who's that? What's his name? Who's driving? And I'm like, excuse me, what's your name? Like, apparently
we need to know.
Right. Like, this is hugely important. You're being interviewed. Are you her daddy? Like, I don't know what is going on here, but she's really trying to figure it out. And so anyway, so that's pretty common. And so we were on a trip. The guy who drove us from the airport, his name is Mark. Okay. And he was, nice guy. We talked to, because like, sorry, what's your name? Mark. That's Mark. Okay. Then for the next like 2 to 3 days of the trip, she's like, every time we're like, who's coming? Bubby, Zadie, Mark coming? I'm like, no, he's not coming. And then she would be like, but Mark, where's Mark? And I'm like, oh my God. And so she was really like into Mark. Fine. And then she got over it because time passed and she's 2, so she doesn't have an actual memory that's like on air for real.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, the rest of the trip, we like meet other drivers, we have our experience. Then finally we're going to the airport 10 days later. We unload from our taxi driven by another person. And then in the taxi line, somebody's like, Liz. And I'm like, what? And then it's Mark, the driver. And I took my daughter and I was like, oh my God, you are not going to believe who this is. Like, you were asking for him. He was your focus point. Like, all you could talk about. And then I'm like, look. And she's like, who's that? And I'm like, that's toddler memory.
Right.
It's just like, get out of my face. Like, leave me alone. Why are you showing me this random man?
Yeah.
And I'm like, he was everything to you on Monday.
I know. Oh my God, that's hilarious. That's so toddler classic, though,
Yes,
you know.
I know.
And feeding them too. It's like, you loved this. I went out and
yes.
bulked up on it, and now you cannot. You're like, why are you feeding me that?
And
you know,
they're like mobsters in that way. Like she'll pick out something that we hid, you know, because it has nutritional value. She's like, you think I'm going to eat a beet? I would never. Throws it on the ground, and I'm like, you're right. Like that was my bad. It's just like, they are so opinionated, such strong opinions, and then they change, flip, like on a dime.
And they don't remember. They don't.
Right.
Yeah, they're not. You know, they don't care.
Why would you think I would even consider a beet?
It is definitely, they are the ultimate gaslighters. They really are.
They are. It's very true. Yeah, totally. But also, like, you know, the purity of that moment when, you know, it's like, pick me up. And like, then, you know, I mean, she loves when we like dance, like that's, you know, and she really gets into it and I get into it. And like, I mean, it's really hard to have those moments without the like zoom out lens of like, this is it, you know, because it's amazing. And I imagine that there are elements that only get better as the person themselves comes into focus and you really get to know them.
Yeah, I really loved every age. My kids are now out of the house, but I really did every age. I was like, oh no, this is my favorite. Oh no, this is my favorite. You know, it is right. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. You know, so that's awesome. So what about an unhinged moment? I mean, you know, we're always like all these, like the podcast is 30 minutes of unhinged time, but is there a specific unhinged time that you had? I like to
I think it's happening is that, okay, because my parents they never intended to put any pressure on me. I know that. And they were themselves immigrants and children of immigrants. And I think that the pressure to like, you know, listen, you got to make something of yourself, or I can't always protect you. And like, I need to make sure that you're going to be okay. And like, you got to do your part to that. And so I can appreciate that that's where it came from. And also that like, you know, for myself, I'm of a generation that like took the assignment, ran with it, and then ran directly away from it. Right. Because like now I'm doing, you know, I mean, God forbid I should have ever decided as a kid that I wanted to do comedy. Like, no way.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, so I sort of wrestle with like both of those in me as like, I understand why my parents were kind of right. And also that like, ultimately, what did it even matter?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, my daughter apparently is a soccer star. And I say this because it has been like told to me and my wife, like almost with concern, like not just like, hey, she's like really good at soccer. Like, isn't that fun and exciting? It was like, hey, we got to talk because like I've never seen the level of talent at the age she's at. And so you probably want to be doing something about that. Oh my
gosh.
And it's so interesting because like on the one hand, I'm like, have you met her? She's 2. But then also I'm like, well, who am I to get in the way of her potentially being this soccer star?
Right.
And also then my parents are in the back of my mind being like, honestly, if she is and she starts at 2, then like maybe she could really go with this.
Yeah.
And what would be so bad about that? Like soccer seems wonderful. And like, what a great anchor to a college scholarship and potentially like, you know, she could have a job, but also like be really social in a networking capacity because she has this whole other interest. And like, wouldn't that be great for her applications? And like, and so the unhingedness is me spiraling with opportunity because, but also like, I can, you know, thankfully, I hope, like bring myself down to earth and be like, and she's still 2.
Yeah.
And also like, only if it's fun and only, but also like,
Right.
I do kind of see what they mean because she happens to like be able to like kind of run in a specific way, like around things. She's very light on her feet with her run. She loves to run. She can run for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
And so it's like interesting because I'm like, okay, I guess I kind of see it.
Yeah.
And also now I'm like, you know, a little bit racking my brain because I'm like, okay, like, do we move to Brazil?
Right.
When does
What
that happen?
Where
Like,
are the Olympics going to be in 16 years?
Right,
you know?
right. Like we have to like, do you think I should buy my ticket now? Or on Tuesday? Tuesday, the flights are
Well, wait.
cheaper.
We'll let's just.
So there's this constant like tug between my inner selves of like, how serious do we want to be at this stage mom thing? Or like, okay, let's pump the brakes a little bit because she's 2.
Yeah. It's so hard not to get way ahead of, because you've got, you know, you're kind of the sculptor here,
Right.
and
Right.
giving them the opportunities and hopefully shaping and giving them direction, but also letting it happen. It's just so so many things to think about.
Totally. That
Yeah.
said, I do have a personal friend who
I thought you were going to say a personal trainer for her.
who is a professional soccer player and coach.
Yeah.
And so I will be writing to him. I already have, but about like, you know, okay, like what are we thinking here?
Yeah,
Like how
yeah.
many times a week and you know,
Right.
whatever. Because
Right.
I know, and I wasn't like this, like she does this thing, it's like basically CrossFit for toddlers. It's I think it's a chain and whatever. So, but she loves it and she would do it every day. Like literally, she's always like, we're going there, you know, like, so I do have a sense that she has kind of this like athletic, you know, bent, which is fine. Like, great, whatever.
Yeah. She's lifting. She's
She can lift, bro. Yeah, totally.
that is so awesome. I know. It's just like, it is like parenting is just such a such a mental game. It really, it's so many things to think about. So
Totally.
you can never be prepared for all of that, you know.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But knowing me, it's like I say, of course, but then I'm like, but could I be? Like, is it possible that I could really be prepared for the Olympics in 16 years? You know, so.
Yeah, that's awesome. So now you had a lawyer background,
Right.
and you did that for how many years did you do that?
So I was a practicing lawyer. I went to law school for 3. I practiced law for 2. And then during those 2, I got what I really wanted, which was a tenure track teaching job, which I then took during the 2, effective one after the first one of those 2. Then I did that job teaching for 9 years. I got tenure after 6, and then that was right around the time that I started doing stand-up, and then left like relatively shortly thereafter. So I left a tenured position to do comedy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you miss that career at all?
I don't. I mean, so the truth is, like, I work clean, and that's not like any sort of moral choice. It just like kind of leans to my like natural tendencies as a person, and so it kind of works for me. But the reason I mention it is I do schools and law firms, like I do shows in those contexts kind of a lot. And so because of that, I don't really miss those audiences because I do get to interact with them in a sort of preferred way.
Yeah.
I mean, they were my original audiences, and they are currently a lot of the audiences that I perform for.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's great. That's great.
It's nice.
And then what was being on the Tonight Show like? Was that stressful?
I guess in a way, but I don't know that actually would be top of the list in terms of adjectives. Like, I had exactly 2 weeks notice to the day.
Wow.
And I think that was perfect because it was sort of like a finals reading week period worth of prep. And obviously, like, you know, I had written the set already, and it was, you know, vetted, like it was picked.
Right.
and also then went through standards and practices. So there's only so much variation that you can have between what's approved, which already is like, many years in the making of like whatever those things are that you submitted to say on the show. So in that sense, it was kind of like, okay, well, I know the set, and now it's just a question of like running it enough to really know it inside out. And like by the end of those 2 weeks, first of all, I had gotten up. I did it 34 times in the 2 week period.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean like literally like get up, do it, sit down. Right. And so like in a show context and not counting the million times I said it for the cat or for my wife or whatever. And so, and then there was one rehearsal at the show. And then the 36th time within that 2 week period was the actual time I did it on the show. And so at that point, like, and I've heard this from other people who've had similar experiences, for The Tonight Show specifically, like you could press play on me at that point. I was so like, all I did was like think through that set. So I wouldn't say that it was stressful exactly by the time of doing it. It was hugely exciting.
Yeah.
It was adrenaline to the max. It was like cartoonishly a big deal in the same way that like, a crazy roller coaster really does have that feeling of being that. And so it was awesome. It was incredible. It was exciting. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
It was great. And he was so nice. And like just everybody there, like they are running a professional operation that works the way that it works because they really work at that, and like it's very smooth.
Yeah.
That's
That's great.
Yeah.
So fun. Well, Liz, this is just like time flies by. It's so quick.
It's nice.
So
this was
quick.
really fun, Andrea. Thank you so much.
Fun.
Yeah.
So fun. So why don't you let people know where they can find you, follow you, all that stuff?
Sure. In my closet.
And for those of you who are just listening, you gotta hop over to YouTube and just get a look at
totally.
Liz's closet.
Show you around. Here's the laundry. But anyway, no, you can find me at Liz Glazer pretty much anywhere. Cool. And watch the special on YouTube, please. It's called Do You Know Who I'm Not? And then there's other sets on YouTube from Don't Tell and Comedy UO and my own stuff as well. So there's a lot there if somebody wants to deep dive.
Yeah, great. Well, we will have those links in the show notes.
Thank you.
So thanks again, Liz, for being on the show.
Thank you,
and
Andrea.
all you do. So
The same. Thank you.
Thanks for listening, and make sure you subscribe, share, and follow us on the socials to get more comedy clips.